Well, I got some more welding to do here. Got some stainless steel fuel tanks here, and got a few more over there. Some big ones over here. These ones are like 3 feet tall, you know, something like that. Pretty big. A lot of welding on them. Intercoolers to do. I kind of modified here to some kind of clearance in there somehow. Got some little caps that the customer made to weld on there. So I did one already. They worked out pretty well. It wasn't bad. A little weird down there on those where they're cut out there. That was kind of sort of a challenge there to get in there real good, make sure it's sealed up, but yeah, it works out pretty good. So I'm going to try filming some of this, see if we can get a little TIG action over here. I don't know how well it's going to turn out, but like I said, my camera's kind of a pile of junk really. So I kind of got a little makeshift stand here to set it up on. I'm going to set it up on there and see how it works out, I guess. So I guess we're ready to go. Got my hood, got some rod over here. Now I'm going to use my little Everlast setup here. I like this welder. I think it's really good. The only problem with it that I find is all the consumables they're pretty much junk. I don't like them. I got a different foot pedal for it. I'm still using the one big TIG torch, and it's, you know, it's like holding a baseball bat in your hand really. So yeah, it worked. So I got it all set up already from last time I was welding on these, so I'll show you kind of how it's done over here. I don't know if you could see that or not, but I got my, just gotta hold this thing still. I have my pulsar and low, and those are, I believe, my settings there. Somebody might, I'm not sure if I fiddled around with those or not. I can't remember, so I think we're ready to go. I'm not sure why that jumps around. I'm guessing that's how much voltage it jumps between on the pulsar. I'm not sure, so we're going to see what happens here. I'm just going to pretty much fuse all the corners together as much as I can. If I don't have to use filler rod on these corner to corner fits, I won't do it. So I always get a piece ready though, just in case. So I'm using like 045 308 stainless steel wire. Kind of out of the bigger stuff, which I'm going to need for those bigger tanks because there's some gaps to fill in there. So just kind of have to deal with what we got for right now. The postman's kind of slow today, or this week I guess you would say. So I kind of like to build up the corners just to make sure we don't get any leaks in those corners. And usually I can kind of just take off without any filler rod. Sometimes you never know what you're going to get. It's a little bit gray. I'm thinking it's due to that I broke my gas lens the other day, and probably because there's these edges are plasma cut, so they tend to be kind of carboned up a little bit. Assuming that could be some of my problem too, but it works. It's just not all shiny and gold and all those pretty colors, you know. I'm just going from tack to tack on these. The owner actually already tacked them all up, and he used a MIG welder to tack them up. So I've kind of buffed down the tacks. Hopefully, you can, I don't know if you can see that or not, but the tack's right there. I've kind of buffed that down so it's not a huge lump right there. So just keep going, and I'll kind of bring you back in when they're ready to go here. Well, hopefully you can see that. Got a little bit of a gap in this one, so it's kind of more extreme the further you go over here. Probably gonna have to use a little filler rod on this one, so we'll see what happens with this one. Hopefully that welder isn't too loud. Kind of a noisy machine. That fan runs all the time. Kind of tends to get a little bit annoying after a while. Whoops. Always trying to get comfortable is always the worst part. Well, we're not getting very nice color out of this one. A little trick that I like to use is when you got a gap to fill, you find the TIG rod that kind of fits in that gap real nice. That's about the size of the TIG rod you want to use when you're trying to fill a gap. Like this one right here, it fits real nice in there. And back here where it's kind of gapped out a little more, it's a little bit looser but not too bad. You might just have to kind of feed a little more rod in there. That's just a little tip I like to use. Seems to work pretty good. You know, you've got about an 1/8 inch gap. You know, you fill with about an 1/8 inch filler rod. That way you don't have to jump back and forth. You know, especially if you got multiple different rod sizes, it's good to have. Right now I'm kind of short-handed on rod sizes, so I only got a 1/16 right now. The other stuff's 0.45. It's real small, mainly just for filling little tiny little gaps if you need to. I'm basically just kind of leaving the rod in the puddle and just kind of washing over top of it. Still got that pulser on. You can probably tell with the weird flashing going on in the camera. Oops. Here comes the big gap. See if we can get her filled up. That was pretty easy. Not too bad at all. There's another corner done. Only a few more to go. We gotta weld some bungs in the bottom too. Oh crap. Almost lost her. Burned the crap out of my fingers. Woo! Now it gets weird with that bung on the bottom. We gotta figure out a way to block this dude up a little bit. Otherwise it's gonna lean all weird. I don't like that. Not one bit. I'm gonna try and fix that. Find something to stick underneath it and hold it up. Oh, we got another gap to deal with. See if that'll focus in. Come on, baby. What the heck? That didn't help at all, did it? How about there? That works. See that gap in there? That's a big one. So there's a 1/16 filler. You can just slide right in there. So I'd say that's about 30 seconds or so of a gap, just right there in that corner. And then it kind of works out pretty well down there. Gets a little big over here again. Can't get that 16th right in the end there. So can't get it in there. Get it in right there in that corner. So that's where about, you know, a 16th filler rod works pretty good. I really like that 3/30 seconds. Over here would be good 3/30 seconds. Almost maybe even like an 1/8 inch. 1/8 inch on the other corner over here would probably be ideal to wash over that gap with, but I don't have an 1/8 inch. So we gotta improvise a little bit. A little technique. It ain't always perfect out there in the real world. That gap filled for the most part. Still wish I had some bigger rod, but oh well. Oop. That was a doozy there. My automatic hood would be real nice right about now. I have one at work that's too lazy to bring it home. Any of you ever thought about buying an automatic hood? They're well worth the money, I'll tell you that. I got a Jackson Next Gen at work, and I've had that hood for about 8 years, and I've dropped it off of ladders and equipment and everything else. And it just recently kind of took its last fall, and it broke the filter cover. It kind of split it in half, and I actually had to tape it back together just to get by. So right now it's kind of on its last leg, but I don't know what I'm going to buy next. I haven't decided yet. I'm thinking maybe one of them Lincoln hoods. The Jackson hood is real heavy and kind of weighs on your neck after a while when you spend like 8 hours a day welding. So I don't know, I might give one of those a whirl and see how that works out. Lincoln ones seem to be pretty good reviews, so I'm going to try one of those. Still too much of a gap in there. Can't quite fill that up. I can't fuse it together, as you can say. Let's get some small filler rod in there. Get over to that next tack there. What kind of blocks are scooting around here? Planting my block here. Kind of trying to fall off the table on me. One thing with TIG welding, man, if you don't have a steady hand, boy, it can look worse than what we're doing right now. I try to always use these hand props as much as I can. I hate trying to hold that torch up there and just hanging out there in no man's land up there, trying to hover that thing. If you don't have a good hand rest somewhere, you're kind of, well, at least I'm pretty much screwed. gap over here again. Sucker right there. I dropped my big fill rod somewhere. I don't know where it went. Oh, there it is. God, this pedal's so sensitive. There we go. One more corner done. See if I can not drop it on myself this time. Oh man, we got a bertha gap there. That one's a big one. Yeah, that's a winner right there. I'm gonna actually get a hammer here and try and close that gap up just a little bit. It's pretty big. There we go. That's better. Didn't take much. It's only 14 gauge. Let's turn the old super blower over here back on. See if we can get this corner buttoned up here. be smooth sailing from here. Hardly need any filler rod at all. So I get up here a little bit further. Bummer, dude. I really jacked the old tungsten up there. Got to fix that. Okay, last one. Last corner anyways. Still gotta weld the bung in there. Or fitting or whatever you want to call it. Getting pretty good at touching my tungsten in that workpiece. Got mad skills at that. I'm going to put a clamp on that. I'm going to scoot it across the table there. That threw me off my rhythm. As if I had any. Another little tip that I just thought of. See if we can get this in focus here. When you're welding along on these, if you kind of stick your rod in there and you want to wash over it, if you're having trouble with the rod kind of, you know, lobbing out on you and shooting ahead like that when you're running your torch, if you just tip your torch angle just a little bit more upwards like this, you know, because if you're pushing too much wire ahead of yourself, you'll blow that wad out and it'll shoot up like that, and then you'll have to try to kind of catch up with it. So if you kind of just tip your torch up a little bit more, I've noticed that kind of helps, and just kind of push on it. Like I push pretty hard. I mean, I actually, like, you know, bend the rod to keep it in there. And then it'll help keep that rod from kind of melting away and shooting ahead of you like that, and then you've got to kind of play catch up. So try tipping your torch up a little bit more and hold a little more pressure down along that rod, and it'll kind of just melt right in as you're going along. Kind of takes some practice. I mean, I'm not even that good at it, but you know, we try. So that's all you can do is try. Keep on with this here. So if you can see it in the camera, if I change my kind of torch angle like all over the place, it's usually because I'm trying to keep that filler rod pushed in there and not trying to blob out in front of me. Hope that makes sense. Hopefully. Now I got a big old bend in it from pushing on it too hard. Straighten it out a little bit. There we go. That's better. I think I confused the rest of this. Sweet! Just like that. Now we just gotta weld the bung in. That one's already welded. Somebody already MIG welded that one in there. Hopefully it doesn't leak. Get a pressure tester here from the owner here pretty soon. That's probably gonna be real shaky. There's the bung we got to weld in. see that. Kind of. I like these bungs a lot better than the other kind. Like that big old thing sticking up off there. These ones seem to weld out a little nicer than the rest of them. More because it's kind of more of a lap weld. You don't really got to put so much heat on it. Those other ones are pretty thick. They're, you know, 1/4 inch thick, and you know, we're welding to 14 gauge to 1/4 inch. You know, pretty big difference there. You got to try to keep your heat soaked into that fitting and not into the sheet metal itself. Sometimes it can be kind of difficult a little bit. Some of them guys that can walk that cup around that thing is pretty impressive. I can't do that yet. I've been practicing, but it still kind of looks like you know, crap. So let's give this a whirl. Well, we're all done with this tank. Let's see if this will zoom in here. No, I'm not a big fan of that weld right there. I'd like to do better. It's kind of lumpy and sort of, you can see where that kind of cut into that fitting there a little bit. I mean, it's fine, but I'd like to have it real smooth, and I'm assuming that probably like a bigger rod might help kind of wash in a little bit better, a little bit faster travel speed. You know, it's hard to pick up your travel speed when you're going around in a circle. At least I find it hard to do that. So I guess maybe a little more heat maybe too, and then a little faster travel speed tends to help. I haven't welded any stainless in a while, so I'm kind of out of practice on it a little bit. All the corners are all fused up though. They didn't turn out too bad. This camera just sucks. And so, one tank down. Only got 1, 2, 3, 3 more tanks left, and then those 2 intercoolers over there. And this job will be done. I gotta get some more gas, so I'm about out. My little bottle here is, you know, doesn't take long at all for that thing to disappear into nothing. I think there's only not much left in there. So that's it for this one. Hopefully I'll try to get some more video of those aluminum intercoolers once I get around to doing that, and then we should be good. This job will be done, and on to the next one. Hopefully we'll see what comes my way, I guess. See ya.